On this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast, financial trauma.
Welcome to the Crushing Debt Podcast with your host, Florida attorney Shawn, where our goal is to help you get rid of the financial bullies in your life.
So welcome back to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast. My name is Shawn Yesner, owner and founder of Yesner Law. And hello again, George Curbelo, your financial coach. Welcome, George.
Yes, I am your financial coach, and I am happy to be here. And Shawn's not introducing me like, hey, welcome back kind of thing. But welcome back, Shawn. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you. So how's it going, man? What's on the horizon for Curbelo Financial Coaching?
Well, helping out clients and just dealing with their day-to-day issues. Obviously, inflation, we talked about that, and it's still a problem out there, and just wanting to help my clients there. But I just want to give a shout-out. I'm hoping by this time the Mets are getting ready. The New York Metropolitans are getting ready for playoff run, and we start to win some games for New York, and I don't care about Yankee fans, so who cares about that?
Baseball? We're in the middle of football season, man. Come on.
Football season just started. So, yes, I know you're excited about your footballs and all that good stuff, but I'm still a baseball aficionado at hand. So I do love me some baseball. So go playoffs.
The national pastime. Did I ever tell you about my baseball career?
Please enlighten. Is this going to be a long or quick?
No, it's going to be as quick as my baseball career. I played Little League Baseball for 1 year growing up in Miami. My batting average was 0.0000. I connected with the ball once, and it was foul.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
I only got on base when I got walked.
Okay, that's good.
And when I said, what position do I want to play, they said deep right field.
Concession stand.
Right. So I played baseball 1 year, and I was like, nope, enough. I'm done.
Hey, this kid's going to be a lawyer one day.
Yeah. No, I played more soccer and swam until I figured out band. But baseball and I were not a good fit from a sports perspective.
I hear you. I enjoy playing when I was younger, and definitely enjoyed. I do enjoy watching, and so yes. But I hear you. No baseball career in this. I think I did the same kind of story. I think I had a few more hits than foul balls, but but definitely I'm not doing any major league playing right now. Just watching.
No, I'm not anywhere. I'm just watching baseball, and that's about it. So go Rays. I don't even remember where the Rays are in the in the chase.
They're playing in Tampa Bay. Yes, that's all you know.
Well, I know they're playing in Tampa Bay. What I mean is I don't know where they are in terms of chasing the playoffs.
I hear you.
I'll figure it out when we're done recording, but I don't know right now.
That's okay. We forgive you.
Yeah. So meanwhile, one thing I forgot to mention on last week's show. Curbelo Financial has a TikTok page.
Oh, my goodness.
And so
we are on the social medias.
Yeah. So, and they've done a lot of cool stuff about the podcast itself, promoting the podcast itself. And I understand if you go to the Curbelo Financial TikTok page, you get to meet the brains behind the operation.
My lovely wife, Christine.
There you go.
And trust me, she gets a lot more impressions, right? She gets a lot more hits.
Well, she's a lot better looking than you are, too.
That I would agree with you as well, my friend. But yeah, we're having fun. Obviously, just trying to promote finances to everybody and having fun doing it. And obviously, she is very good at marketing. So yeah, definitely give some love to the page. Would be greatly appreciated.
Another sports analogy, they say you outkicked your coverage. Is that how they put it with her? So
she would madly agree with you.
So yeah, check out the Curbelo Financial TikTok. I'll get a link for it to put in the show notes if you need to find it that way. Also, we do have our Patreon page up and running, so thank you, those of you that support the show. If you want to get a little bit more love, you can do that at the Patreon page, which you can find under Crushing Debt. Also want to talk about our sponsor, Sam Cohen, really quick. Sam's been a huge supporter of the show for a long time. He writes malpractice insurance for attorneys and title companies. So if you are an attorney or title company and you're looking to either start your company or renew your malpractice coverage, contact Sam at attorneysfirst.com. He can even get you coverage if you've messed up and had a claim in the past. He can even write coverage for you. So go check him out. If he can't write coverage for you, or if he can't do better than what you've already got, he will also tell you that. So not only is he a good insurance agent, a smart insurance agent, but he's an honest insurance agent,
Ooh, I like that. That's
Yeah.
always important.
When can you find one of those? An honest,
It's somewhere deep in the dark web.
probably somewhere near honest attorney and honest congressman, I guess.
I like that.
Yeah. So anyway, we're still bringing you topics. I mentioned last week that I went to FinCon 2022. And so for those of you that didn't listen last week, you can go back and listen to last week's. But for those of you that didn't listen to last week's episode, FinCon is a financial conference, and it brings together creators, whether it's bloggers, YouTubers, podcasters, TikTokers, all the other social media-ers, to all talk about financial topics. And so what I thought we'd do is take a couple of the topics that I saw that made an impact on me, bring them back here and talk to George about them on the show. And the one that kind of had a really big impact on me was this whole concept of financial trauma. And it was actually kind of weird. So it was a great presentation. I don't want to take anything away from the presentation, but some of the people talking about their financial trauma, it was kind of weird. It was kind of weird listening to them talk. And it wasn't like, I got bullied as a child. It wasn't anything deep like that. It was goofy stuff. Like I was scared when I quit this job to start that job, or I was nervous when this thing happened and I had to do that. It was kind of weird the way they phrased it. So I don't necessarily want to come at it from that angle. And I've done some other episodes on the podcast before about this, is basically just your relationship with money.
Absolutely.
So, financial coach, what is your relationship with money?
Well, apparently it keeps running away from me. That's the relationship.
It keeps leaving you at the altar?
It keeps leaving me at the altar. I love that. It's funny when you have that kind of thought process, man. I hear you. The thing is too is like trauma comes in many scales and sizes. Obviously, for me, what are some of the types of trauma that people, when we talk about when it comes to finances, right? So unemployment makes sense. Changing jobs, I think there's the financial implication to that, but changing jobs is it's scary.
Yeah.
Having change and going to a new office or working with new individuals itself, there's a huge change that obviously a lot of people just don't know how to handle and manage. So I totally understand that feeling. I would imagine if I had to, being 12 years into this kind of company and all of a sudden I have to go and kind of start over, because that's what it is. You're starting over. I don't know if it's a trauma, but definitely the big change could have a big impact on how we handle our day-to-day finances.
Yeah, but I think financial trauma can be both good and bad.
Absolutely.
In other words, what happens if you do hit the lottery? What happens if you do get a big inheritance?
Change addresses. That's what I'm going to do.
What if you do get a big inheritance? What if your job does take off and you get a bonus and a raise and all that kind of stuff? So I think financial trauma can be good, but I think it's all the stuff that I talk about in terms of what happens in bankruptcy.
Exactly.
So, did you get a divorce? Did you lose a spouse? Did you lose income? I'm dealing with a big medical issue, or dealt with the medical issue. Now I got to deal with the aftermath of that medical issue. A big bill coming up, a big college bill coming up, a big,
Sorry, did I grunt too loud there? Yeah.
Did I hit too close to home there?
Oh boy.
So, but one of the things they talked about in the session that I thought was productive was your mindset.
Yep.
So, are you an abundance mindset or are you a scarcity mindset? In other words, do you look at that financial issue, whether it be good, bad, or otherwise? Do you look at that financial issue and, not to pick on you, but when someone says college, do you grunt? Or, when someone says college, you say, you know what, and I'm sure you did this, I got it covered, we planned for it, we saved for it, we got everything. So yeah, I mean, there's all those other issues that go along with it, and it's fun to grunt about it.
Of course, that's what makes me so lovable.
Right, but if you plan for it, it doesn't necessarily have to, it's more of an abundance mindset.
Correct.
We know it's coming, we planned for it, we saved for it. It's no longer an issue versus, oh my gosh, my kid is smart enough to go to college. Now what do we do?
Exactly. No, and that's the other thing too. I mean, you got to really look at it as, the positive spin on these kind of situations. Like, you're right. It's like, another expense is coming down the pipeline. Not always happy about it, but if we plan and we have the things that are necessary to make it work, why not? I mean, it's okay. Don't get me wrong. I don't like spending money in the tune of 30 to 40. I get that, but if you're in a position where we can do this, get it. We do it.
Yeah.
but it doesn't change the fact that I don't like,
Right.
doing it.
No one likes
I get
spending
you.
a lot of money.
But I hear you. But I can imagine the stress where it's like, oh my God, my kid just got into Yale, and yet we have no plan in regards to how to make that work, how to make that happen. And if the only choice you have is to kind of like, hey, we're going to take out $80,000 a year in order to get a general college degree. And no offense, general. I mean, you get a BA or a BS. It's just that. It doesn't guarantee you six figures, and yet you're going into almost $300,000 in debt to start your career. And I think those are the things that make me grunt in these situations.
Well, and one of the things that my dad always instilled in me, which I'm trying to relay to my kids, is what kind of a degree do you want to get? What do you want to do with that degree? I mean, I knew I was going to be an attorney since high school, so going to college,
so no baseball star, gotcha.
I knew that was clearly I was not going to be a baseball star,
Gotcha.
or any kind of professional sports star for that matter. But we kind of knew, and the reason I chose accounting is, number one, if law didn't work out, I knew I had a backup that would provide a good career for me and my family. But number two, it provided a practical background in terms of the accounting for budgeting and balancing the checkbook and understanding finances and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's why I went into accounting undergrad. Was more of it was something that interested me. It was a good degree to, quote, fall back on if law didn't work out. And I get it. Some people want to be music majors. Some people want to be political science majors.
Right.
I get it. And you can do that. I'm not saying those are bad degrees to get. But make sure that you have a plan when you're getting those degrees. What am I going to do with that degree? Am I going to be a professional musician? Am I going to be a music teacher? Am I going to get an economics degree and be an economist? Am I going to get a biology degree and be a biologist? What am I going to do with the degree? And a lot of times I might have to start talking to my kids. That's also a little bit what college is about.
Yeah.
So you think you want to be a biologist, you go into biology, you don't like it, change.
Right.
Change into something you do like, and then go into that as your career.
That makes sense. And that's the other thing. You're supposed to know what you are going to be when you grow up when you're 12, right? Isn't that the idea? But no, that's what life should be, is, trying some things, taking risks, and really just finding your passion. That's what we want to at least try to achieve when it comes to our careers.
When I was 13, my mom had in my head that I was going to be a veterinarian. We grew up with dogs. My mom has animals today. My mom said we had a dentist in the family. We had a doctor in the family. My mom said I want a veterinarian in the family, so she was going to do that. Dude,
no pressure there. No pressure.
I couldn't watch them take the IV out of my wife without turning green.
Okay.
So there's no veterinarian
Not gonna
in
happen.
my no.
Gotcha.
I would be like, I'm not doing surgery on that animal. Just put it down and be done with it.
We're good.
I couldn't stand the blood. Ugh, I can't even watch myself get a shot or get blood taken.
I hear you on that, but that's okay. We're all tough guys here. Come on.
We knew veterinarian was not going to happen.
So what are some of the signs of this trauma? So, I mean, obviously you're, one of the traumas you talked about, bankruptcy, divorce that we've seen, these are kind of major events in our lives that could cause these financial, traumas to happen in our lives. What are some of the signs that you, as a bankruptcy lawyer itself, are you seeing in the clients that you kind of work with?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of different things. So it goes back to the podcast we did a couple of weeks ago in terms of it's kind of a funny spin on relationships. So you got to talk about this kind of stuff. So one of the signs that I see is avoiding it.
Yep.
And hey guys, I'm guilty of this as well.
All of us.
I remember when my wife was going through getting her gallbladder out and all that kind of stuff. She was, some of the conversations we were having was, oh my God, what is this going to cost? And I got to go through this surgery, and a Tylenol from the hospital is going to be $25, and what?
Right.
And I was kind of as I look back on it, I was avoiding it. Now, I was avoiding it to make her feel better.
Of course.
But what I was saying is, dude, don't worry about it. Let's get you better, and then we'll worry about it. Where in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, so I need to kick up my savings a little bit here. I need to increase the prices at the law firm a little bit here. But I don't know if I was necessarily avoiding it more than just trying to make her feel better about it. trying to get her focused on you get better. We'll deal with the fine. Hey, I can negotiate him away if I have to. So,
Gotcha.
You get better, but avoiding it is one of the signs. And so we talked a couple of weeks ago on the show about one spouse not telling the other that we're in foreclosure. We need to file bankruptcy. That I had to buy this or I had to avoid buying that. So avoidance is one of the signs that I see.
Totally agree. Again, for some of the clients that I've talked to over the years as well, avoidance is big. If I sweep it under the rug, it's not a reality. Right. It's not something we need to worry about now. And the problem is, you keep pushing it, kicking it down the road. You still have to deal with the issue itself. Avoiding it too, it's kind of like, well, if we avoid the conversation, we don't have to worry about the tough conversation as well. And I agree with you. Communication seems to be the biggest problem that we see in this is, if I have to talk to my wife, that means it's a reality. If I have to see the bill or something of that nature, or just come to the fact that, hey, I've just lost my job.
Right.
And coming through and saying the reality of, okay, there's no income now coming. There's nothing. Even that can be traumatic in regards. So let me avoid that feeling, and then maybe eventually, don't worry about it. I'll just get a new job. I'll just do this. It'll just, it'll all work out. And it's like, you need a plan. You need to focus. You need to make sure that whatever we think actually becomes a reality itself. So yeah, avoidance seems to be a big issue.
It's interesting though. At the same time, I kind of go back to my own childhood, and I know we all grew up different. My wife grew up with a single mom. I grew up both parents, but the traditional dad worked, mom raised us.
Right.
But for me, and I've talked about this on the show way, way early episodes, in my childhood, we weren't rich by any means. But my dad made a good living, and so if we wanted something, we had to earn it, but he could pretty much always afford it.
Yeah, it was available, right.
And so now my mindset, if I need the money, it finds a way of showing up.
Right.
And so I'm not necessarily worried about these upcoming medical bills that we got because I know I can negotiate it. Yep. I can negotiate a payment plan. Something will happen to cause the law firm to make more money. And so I'll have it. Now, if I don't, we'll figure out a way. But something will always happen. That mindset that was kind of instilled in me in childhood is the money will be there. If I work hard, if I do the things I'm supposed to do at the law firm, the money will take care of itself. Maybe we'll get some huge patron on our Patreon page.
And there you go.
There's
I
a
like
plug.
that. Put it into the universe.
But it'll be there versus, and I've talked about this before, I had an ex-girlfriend, money is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
Well, we had a ton of fights over money because she kept saying, money doesn't make the world go round. And I'm like, well, I agree with you, but it makes the trip a lot more fun.
It makes it easier as well.
So
and that's, you're right on the negative, your negative messages about money itself. That can also, that attitude can have that. Money is bad. Wanting more money is selfish, right? Isn't that another thing that we keep hearing itself? Yeah. Or you don't deserve, like all that money you make and this, you don't deserve it, buddy. That's like, these are the things that can also kind of continue us in that cycle,
right?
When it comes to the trauma itself and really just that thought process. So I've seen some. How about signs of like overspending or even underspending? Obviously, overspending is the easy one, right?
Erratic spending,
exactly.
I remember a story when I first moved to Clearwater. 2001, I first moved to Clearwater right around this time of year. October, November is when I moved to Clearwater in 2001. And I remember two things that I did. When I moved to Clearwater, my birthday's in December. And so I had just moved here. I had just started the new job. I barely had any money. But I went out and I bought myself a birthday present. I just wanted to make myself feel better. So I bought myself a birthday. I got myself, it was a flask engraved with my initials.
Okay.
So it doesn't work anymore. The alcohol I had in it kind of over time burned a hole in it. But
what the heck are you drinking?
some good stuff.
There you go.
Okay,
gotcha.
But I went out and I bought myself a birthday present.
Yep.
I remember when I lost that job and decided to start and go off on my own. I tell a story that, again, it happens. Stuff happens right around this time of year. I started the first law firm around this time of year. I started Yesner Law right around this time of year. But I knew that I had left a job with a steady paycheck and gone off on my own, and Lord knows when I was going to get my next paycheck, and Lord knows if the law firm was going to be successful. 2020 hindsight, it's doing okay. But I went out and I bought myself a huge Thanksgiving feast because I didn't know when I'd be able to eat like that ever again.
Wow.
So I figured, you know what? Let me dip into savings a little bit, blow out this Thanksgiving dinner, enjoy myself, and then nose to the grindstone and get to work.
That's it. But you had a plan itself, and then sometimes we have to kind of like, hey, take the positive spin on it. It's like we get it. We're in this situation. Let's do something, but you know that you're going to be working hard and trying to make things better as your next step. So that makes sense. I remember, dude, 08. Obviously, financial, little financial kind of crisis happening around that time with banks.
There was.
I worked with a big bank at that time, lost my job. And what's funny is that at that point, my daughter was just born. So, my second daughter's born, just lost my job thinking, hey, I'll find a job and we'll work it through. I got a severance package. That was nice for my company. Hey, thanks for working for us. Here's some money, go away.
Right.
But that's, stuff happened. Thinking to myself, oh, it'll take a few months, maybe a few weeks. No, excuse me, I was a few months. I was like a few weeks. I was out of work for 9 months.
Wow.
Made that severance stretch and stretch and stretch to make things work. But I got to say, again, positive twist. I was worried. Don't get me wrong. I was, looking for jobs, doing what I could. But I got to spend the first 9 months of my daughter's life with her.
That's awesome.
So again, that for me, I can't get that time back. I appreciate the fact, don't get me wrong, I was worried. And that severance package stretched. Like I said, did I do enough stretching there? It was stretching.
Yeah.
But we have to look at some of the positive things that kind of happen in these situations. I get it. We worry when we lose our jobs. But what can you do more of? Can you focus on that passion project? Can you focus on family? Look at the positive outlook when it comes to these, because I guarantee you, like you said, the money will be there. You're going to work hard. The next job will present itself.
Yeah, I was in a very similar situation when I left the first law firm that I created. My son was just about to turn 1. And so here I am with a 1-year-old having to start all over again, building a new law firm from scratch. And then at the end of 2013, we found out, and this was in 2012, I started Yesner Law. And then at the end of 2013, we learned our second was on his way.
Wow.
And so here I am trying to start up another law firm. But like you, I got bought out from the first law firm, and a lot of that money seeded Yesner Law, but a lot of that money meant I could get Yesner Law up and running the right way, but still spend time with my wife and newborn, or 1-year-old at that time. Now, gosh, he's now 11.
Yeah.
Good
Time
Lord.
Flies, man. Time flies when you're having fun.
Good Lord. So what are some tips, strategies that you have for managing? So, like you and I have kind of alluded to in some of our stories, how would you say someone just goes through, I just lost my job, I learned my wife was pregnant, we've got to prepare for our kid to go to college, or I'm getting divorced, or whatever. How would somebody manage that kind of stress, that kind of trauma?
Talk to someone. Of course, the avoidance is the easy way, right? But talk to a friend, talk to someone you confide, talk to your spouse would be nice.
Talk to one of us.
Yeah, talk to one of us. Hey, coach-wise, I was leading to that. I was like, go to a professional. So,
There you go.
Talk to someone who can actually, just give you where you are right now is. It's just one time, it'll get better. Put a positive spin. What are some of the things that are good that may come out of this situation? We get it. We sometimes kind of fester on the negative, but let's look at the opportunities to say, here's what the next opportunity will look like. And then obviously, what do we need to do? What's the plan that we need to do to make sure that you're not staying in this situation for a long period of time? If that's redoing your resume, or just anything that when it comes to the actual trauma itself, just find a way to go. Okay, acknowledge it. It's here. This is what's happening. But what can I do? What's the next thing? What do I need to do next? And bouncing it off someone you trust, an accountability partner, that goes a long way.
Well, and for me, I try to think of, what's the worst thing that could happen? So my wife just went through this surgery. What's the worst thing that could happen in terms of the medical bills that are coming?
Right.
Well, the worst thing that'll happen is we'll get a call from the hospital saying you owe X, and we'll be able to talk to the hospital about, can we pay it back by doing X, Y, Z?
Right.
Or, I lost the first law firm. I left the first law firm that I had started. What's the worst that can happen? Well, the worst that can happen is I'll have to go get a job in another law firm. It's someone else's law firm.
Right.
That's the worst that can happen. So typically when I start thinking about, well, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen typically isn't that bad. It's not as bad as it is in your mind.
Yeah, slow down a little bit. We always exaggerate the unknown. And that's the thing. It's the situation, the feeling, it's an ambiguous kind of feeling that we're working through. Yeah. And what we need to try to figure out is acknowledge it. Once again, acknowledge where you are and go, right, it's not that bad. It could be worse. You could be dead.
Yeah.
There's let's really look at these situations itself. Like, hey, you got your health, you're breathing, you've got people who love you, you've got people who are there to support you. It could be worse, but again, at this point, let's acknowledge where you're at and what do we need to do next.
Yeah.
Focus on that.
Yeah, for me, that first night that my wife was in the hospital, I remember I got the kids to bed, and then I poured myself a small glass of bourbon, went out onto the back porch,
nice,
and just by myself collected my thoughts, had a glass of bourbon, and
another glass. He's implying,
and then another, and then another. No, I didn't go crazy.
I drank responsibly.
I didn't drink. I had one glass of bourbon. It was a really good bourbon.
Right.
But and again, I'm not suggesting alcohol. I know there may be some people that are that don't want to drink or can't drink or whatever. But I think
find whatever it is that gets you to just relax.
Go for a walk
Meditate.
in the park, meditate.
Right.
Something like that. Yeah,
yep.
like I did when I first moved here. I went and I bought myself a birthday present. Do something that will get you back to center, get your thoughts under control, and then come up with a plan on how to do it. One of the sayings I love is, how do you eat an elephant?
The whole thing? No, I'm just kidding.
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time. That's it.
Just take it one bite, one step at a time. So
I like that. I got a note here itself. Fear thrives in the unknown. So it's a great quote here. And getting clear what you need, having a clear plan itself allows you to reduce the fear and obviously reduce the unknown. And I think that's what you want to do from that perspective. I love it. Love it.
I think that's the biggest thing in terms of financial trauma is the unknown of what's going to happen and
where's the money coming from. Yep, totally get it.
And you know what? You do what you got to do. If you got to go out and get a second job, you go out and get a second job.
Second, third, fourth,
If you got to drive Uber, you drive Uber. Yeah. Whatever it is, you got to do what you got to do. If you got to tighten the belt and not go out to dinner as much, you got to tighten the belt and not go out to dinner as much.
If you lost your job, you're not eating out. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's keep it real. Like, I'm not judging you, but hey, if there's no income coming, you're not eating out.
Right.
You're making ends. And we talked about it last week. Think about it like, this is so important about building that savings, that emergence. We talked about being afraid in the inflation, being prepared for the ups and downs, right, of the economy, being prepared for, hey, guys, we might all get sick one day. We all might lose our job one day. This is the importance of having that savings account, that having the emergency things in place before things happen, because that'll reduce the fear. That'll reduce the unknown itself because you have the safety net that's in place for you and your family.
And if you got to tap into savings, you got to tap into savings. That might be, if you're sitting there with this financial trauma thinking, what the heck is going to happen? How am I going to pay for this? How am I going to afford this? But you got a savings account sitting there for emergency purposes.
That's the purpose of it.
There's your answer. And that's what you've been building towards this whole time is, okay, now the trauma, the emergency has happened, but now I know I've got a way. So what's the worst case scenario? You deplete your savings and you rebuild it.
That's it.
Not so bad.
Now I'm okay with, don't get me wrong, it still sucks. I always say it still sucks to use the money but when you're in an emergency like not having a job or being disabled for a little bit of time or just any type of life event, having that in place allows you to focus on the event, focus on the feelings itself, and not have to focus on how am I going to pay the mortgage at the end of the month. That's what we do, these kind of things. That's why you work hard to do that.
Right. Meanwhile, I think we've kicked this topic around for
this was such a happy. Give me a positive note, my friend. Give me something positive at the end. Your second career in Little League coaching. Think something. Give me something, buddy.
I'm not a Little League coach. I coached Little League for one season with my younger son. It was a terrible experience. But I am a coach. I am a soccer coach.
There you go.
So I am coaching soccer. At the end of the month here, so this episode will be the end of September. I know for those of you in the Tampa Bay area, there's a couple of things going on. We got Halloween coming up the end of October. I'm part of a Gasparilla crew out in West Chase where I live. We're having our annual golf tournament on October 22nd. Nice. The following weekend, October 29, is the Great West Chase, which is a 5K, 1-miler combination run for adults and kids to help raise money for the West Chase Charitable Foundation. So if you are in or around the Tampa Bay area and you want to come out and play golf with the West Chase crew and raise money for the West Chase Charitable Foundation, give me a buzz. Or if you want to come run a 5K or 1-miler with your kid race, give me a buzz. There's certainly entries available for the Great West Chase, so I'll put a plug in for my home neighborhood.
Nice. Well, again, if I get to do that too, then Eastlake Library, I'm doing in early October. We're doing a money and kids kind of session. And yes, I'll be doing that with 9 and 10-year-olds to say how to get a good start on money. And it's not a boring session for the kids. If you're in the local and want to have your kids kind of learn a little bit more money and how to create a budget, it sounds more fun. It is more fun than it sounds. Let's just put it like that. But definitely Eastlake Library, and the details and the events for registration are all on the website.
And what's your website again?
Well, for them, it would be the Eastlake Library.
Okay, the Eastlake
It'll be on
Library
theirs, and you'll be able to register there. It's going to be fun. I did it once, and I got to say, the rave reviews from the kids of like, wow, that kid, he knows a lot, and he's funny, too. I was like, okay.
Well, I think the red nose and the big shoes helped.
I appreciate it.
So, yeah, I'll link all that stuff in the notes when I post the episode. Again, Curbelo Financial, go check out their social media, their TikTok page in particular. Patreon.com/crushingdebt if you want to support the show. Thank you to Sam Cohen, and also thank you to our second sponsor, Mark Purvis. Mark is our editor, longtime editor of the show. He's the one that makes us sound really, really good. But he also has a website called LegacySpotlight.com. So if you go to LegacySpotlight.com, you get to take advantage of his Emmy Award-winning expertise, his 20-plus years of experience as a videographer, and you can record stories, you can record family histories, you can record all kinds of stuff, either for future generations, your stories for future generations, or you can record your past generations for your future generations. So what would it be like if your grandparents could tell stories to your grandkids? What would it be like if your parents could tell stories to your grandkids? You can record all that with Mark through LegacySpotlight.com, so check him out there. Thank you, Mark, for all the work you do in making us sound good. But I think that will bring us to the end of this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast. Again, financial trauma, hoping that you can overcome that trauma so that at the end of the month you have more money rather than at the end of the money you have more month. That'll do it for this week's episode, and we look forward to talking to you in next week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast.
If you have questions that you think would make a great topic for a future episode, please email Shawn or connect with us on social media. Shawn Yesner and Yesner Law, PL, are Florida licensed attorneys. The information contained in this week's episode is not a substitute for legal advice. Your situation may differ, especially if you are located somewhere other than the state of Florida. If you have questions, please contact our office or contact a local attorney. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast.